I am trapped, but do not come help me. It is not worth it. You are not smarter than they are. I am posting this here so that maybe, somehow, someone will see this and know what happened to me. My phone is about to die, but before it does, I want everybody who knew me to know that even though I am still alive, I want you to carry on as though I was dead. There is nothing anybody can do for me now. The cool, clear water was flowing down my head, streaming down my scalp and through my hair, rinsing away all of the microscopic particles of dead skin and dirt that were tangled in its strands. I flexed my muscles and let myself relax. The moving was done. No more being stuck in the van, no more sleeping on friends' couches, no more bathing in other people's showers. That was the part that I hated the most. For me, showering had always been this sacred part of the day, a time where I could be completely shielded from the outside world, just a few minutes in the morning where I could collect myself for the day to come. That was when I had my own place, with my own shower. But I found I could never really do that in someone else's shower. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was an intruder, like I was invading somebody else's personal space. I always felt like I was wearing somebody else's clothes, like at any moment they would barge in and kick me out. But not anymore, I reminded myself. I have my own house now. This was even better than before. Before, I was just renting an apartment, subject to the whims of some cranky old landlord. Now I had complete dominion over my space. I was its sole owner. That on its own was a goddamn miracle. Even for a property on the outskirts of town, I was able to scoop this place up unreasonably cheap. I would be able to pay off the entire mortgage in less than 7 years, even on my measly accountant salary. Even thinking about it was enough to make me giddy. Breathing in, I forced my excitement back down and set to work on cleaning my hair, reaching for the shower shelf. Tap. I frowned, looking around. Shit. Knocked something over. I scanned the shower floor for the victim of my clumsiness. Did it fall out of the tub? I was beginning to lean out to check the tile floor outside when suddenly, tap. It happened again. I turned around. I think that was the wall? I waited, not moving a muscle. Tap. As if to confirm my suspicions. I furrowed my brow. I stood there for at least a solid 10 minutes, searching for some sort of reasonable explanation, occasionally interrupted by the wall. I thought back to something I heard from an older co-worker a few years back. See, the pipes have been making all sorts of weird noises for a few months, and the other day, I just had enough, and I decided to call my son, the one who works as a plumber. And what he told me is that it's a water pressure thing. If you have too much water moving too quickly through a pipe, the water is going to slam against the sides of the pipes, which can make it rattle against the wall. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. But I needed to test it. If the water stops flowing through the pipes, it should stop making that knocking noise. I turned the shower knob all of the way back, and I waited for the taps to stop. But it didn't stop. Didn't even slow down. Just tap, tap, tap. And so, I decided to let it go. For weeks, that knocking sound continued, non-stop, and for weeks, I tried to keep from speculating about it. But curiosity stuck to my skin like a rash, and I could only stop myself from scratching it for so long. Tap, 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 tap. I found myself frowning. It's different. Something about it is different today. And as I worked conditioner through my hair, listening to the noise, I realized that I was right. Before, it always came in the same predictable pattern. There would be a knock, a pause, a knock, a pause, a knock, longer pause. But today, the knocks were coming more erratically. They sounded almost apprehensive. It reminded me of the time I had to retrieve a baseball from my neighbor's backyard. I would tiptoe up to their front porch, nervously knocking once on the door, waiting, then knocking again, slightly louder. I was always terrified that some nasty, tempered man in a wife-beater would answer the door and start yelling at me. Tap, Tap, tap. It was like it was waiting. Tap. But waiting for what? Tap, 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 tap. For an answer. Tap, tap. I leaned in towards the shower wall. Tap. And pressed my ear against it. And listened. Bang! I felt my heart shoot up into my chest as I reflexively stumbled backwards, slipping on the slick shower floor and falling chest first onto the wall of the tub. If the wind hadn't been knocked out of me, I would have yelled in surprise and pain. The hit was not a knock, it was a decisive blow. The wall had been shaken by its impact so hard, it had knocked everything off of the shower shelf into the tub. The shampoo, conditioner, soap, body wash, everything scattered around the shower floor. As soon as I got my wits back, I scrambled to my feet and made for the door, wrapping a towel around my lower half. Turning the knob, I only stopped to glance back in horror at the shower wall. Tap, 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 tap. Several more weeks passed. I didn't like the new bathroom very much anymore. Hell, I can barely tolerate being in the same house as it. I began going to downright impractical lengths to avoid using it. Whenever I found I needed to go, I would get in my car and drive 15 minutes to the nearest fast food place. Eventually, though, this strategy became unsustainable. One day, I pulled into the parking lot and was immediately approached by the manager and told to leave. Shit, they must think I'm homeless, I thought to myself on the drive home. Funny thing was, they were kind of right. A home is a place where you feel safe, a place where you can let your guard down. I had no such place. That incident made me realize that I needed to find a way to bathe. I couldn't put it off any longer. I came up with the idea that I could get a gym membership to use their shower. Well, maybe that's a good long-term solution, but I need to clean myself now. I decided that I was going to wash up as best I could in the kitchen sink, but to do that, I need my shower supplies, I realized, heart dropping into my stomach. As I tiptoed up the stairs towards the bathroom, I found myself praying for the first time in years. Please God, let it be quiet. Tap, 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 tap. Deaf ears. I was in and out in a second. I practically ran in, scooped up the bare essentials I needed to bathe myself, and ran out, slamming the door behind me. Heart racing, I paced back down the stairs, piling my loot on the counter. I paused. If I listened closely enough, I could just barely hear the tapping sound upstairs. I pushed it from my mind and gave myself a moment to calm down. I began setting up my supplies next to the sink. Sighing, I removed my shirt and positioned my greasy scalp under the faucet, bracing myself for the sudden shock of cold water. But the shock of cold wasn't nearly as strong as the shock of hearing a shrill, anguished scream emerge from the drain. "Where did he go? Where did you take him?" I bolted up, banging my head against the uncompromising faucet. I have never, before or since, felt so horrified in my entire life. I live all on my own. I have no neighbors. Either somebody is breaking into my house or... "What did you do to him?" The voice was a feminine one, just slightly on the younger side, maybe late 20s. Her voice was filled with despair. "Tell me where he is." As I listened, I noticed something that made me feel sick. I don't need to strain to hear the knocking anymore, I realized, my heart sinking past my stomach, through all of my guts and wrapping itself up in my intestines as if it was trying to hide. There was no point where I decided to sprint up the stairs, down the hall, through the doorway. My feet just carried me that direction, in my mindless, terrified trance. I froze as I watched the incomprehensible scene in front of me. Bam, 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 bam. An endless barrage of blows impacted the shower wall, as if hundreds and hundreds of people were on the other side, pummeling the wall, desperately trying to break through. I felt something moving behind me. I spun around just fast enough to see the bathroom door swinging shut. Mortified, I moved to pull it back open, but the knob wouldn't budge. The door wasn't locked. Someone was holding it shut. The woman wasn't yelling anymore, just whispering through choked sobs. "You're going to take him, aren't you?" That was all I needed to completely break down. I became a crazed animal, swinging and kicking and screaming, "Let me out! Open the door!" I spent what felt like weeks in that hellish room. The knocking never stopped, never weakened, and I never got used to it. The first few days I tried to wait it out. Somebody will come for me. Someone will find me. I just need to endure this torment long enough to receive their salvation. That hope disappeared when I went to call 911 and realized that I had no service or Wi-Fi. I started living like a rat, scurrying around the room, sniffing around for anything even remotely edible. Toothpaste was the first thing to go. It made me feel sick, but I was able to keep it down. For a few days I debated whether or not it was safe to eat a bar of soap. Do I even care? I did whatever I could to make my new prison as comfortable as possible. I dragged the bath mat over to the door, gathered up all of the towels and washcloths, and piled them into a makeshift little bed. I almost had to curl up into a ball to even fit on it. Whatever sleep I found was restless, and it only ever came when sheer exhaustion outweighed my paranoia. Every so often as I was waking up, I swore I could feel something touching me, grabbing at my emaciated limbs or dragging its fingers across my ribs like a xylophone. Day and night slipped by indistinguishably, with no way of gauging the passage of time. It all felt like a fever dream, fading in and out of consciousness. I would often wake up to find that I was in a different spot than the one I fell asleep in. But one day, I opened my eyes and saw the same thing I saw when they were closed. I sat up, feeling around, reaching for the light switch. Instead, my hand brushed up against skin, pulled tight over bone. I gagged. Someone is in the bathroom with me. I scurried backwards to get away, but I quickly collided with a wall of legs whose owners started to shift around to find the source of the disturbance. Oh God. I'm not in the bathroom, and as I shot to my feet and pushed my way through the horde of naked bodies, I thought about the last thing that woman said. "You're going to take him, aren't you?"